Yo, what's up everybody? Jumping here. Today I'm going to be showing you guys all of my builds for the Titan in Destiny 2. I'm going to be talking about all three different subclasses and all of my setups for both PvE and PvP. So this video should be a little bit long because there's a lot to talk about, but I'm going to try to keep it as short as I can. So we're going to start with the Sentinel class, then I'm going to talk about the Striker class, and finally the Hammer of Soul class. So, let's go ahead and get started. Now, before I actually even talk about the Sentinel, I just want to quickly point this out because this is totally universal. I recommend Rally Barricade for PvE and Towering Barricade for PvP. And the jump is up to you. Do you want increased control and speed, or do you want increased height? It's just all about your own personal preference. Alrighty, so for the Sentinel class, if you're going to play PvE with this class, I would recommend the bottom tree just because I think it's better. Shield Bash is actually really nice in PvE, will blind enemies, that's always good. Killing enemies with grenades will recharge your grenade energy, and there's always a lot of enemies to kill in PvE, so that's pretty good. Also, when you are surrounded by enemies, when you kill enemies, it will reduce the cooldown of your super, that's really nice in PvE. And finally, you can throw 2 shields, I do like this a lot for PvE. The grenade, well, the grenade is up to you for PvE. I pretty much would recommend any of them, it's just all about you. But for PvP, I definitely say the Suppressor Grenade is probably your best option. And also for PvP, the top tree I think is better because of my setup. Now, the thing is, I think the Sentinel class is actually really fun to play in PvP. And that is because of the setup I'm going to show. It's kind of a trolley setup. It's not the best setup in the entire world, but it is a lot of fun to play. But in PvE, the Sentinel is not as good. Now, I'm not saying it's bad, though. I think it's a really fun class to play, and I think it has a lot of potential. Unfortunately, though, the Striker is just so much better for PvE, and also the Hammer of Soul is a lot better, too. So, normally, I don't really play the Sentinel all that much in PvE, but every once in a while, I'll put it on just because I want to mix it up and have some fun with it. And this is pretty much my PvE setup for the Sentinel. Now, it's nothing special, but I do think that he does look really freaking cool. So that's the main thing. I do like the Mask of the Quiet One a lot. This is pretty much the only setup where I use this helmet. But this is a really good helmet for pretty much all the subclasses. But it's best on the Sentinel just because of the final perk. But what this helmet does is that when you take damage, which in PvE, you're going to take a lot of damage, you will get a little bit of melee energy, grenade energy, and class ability energy. So that's really good. Also, when you kill enemies with avoid ability, it will give you some health regeneration. So when you pop your super or you kill enemies with grenades, you get some health back. So that's actually pretty freaking good. Now, the mod I have on this is that grenades will recharge faster while using a void subclass. For the arms, it's the same mod. Grenades will recharge faster. For the chest piece, I use reduced recoil for kinetic weapon. Although you could actually put reduced class ability for a void subclass on the chest piece if you like. And for the boots, I have increased armor recovery, and finally, for the Titan mark, I have increased armor resilience. Now, my split, which really doesn't matter at all for PvE. You don't have to worry about your split in PvE. The main thing to know is that mobility is pretty much useless in PvE because it's just going to affect your jump height and your walking speed, which will not help you. But resilience and recovery is good in PvE, so always just go for them. But my split overall is 2 mobility, 5 resilience, and 8 recovery. Now, the PvP setup is just totally different, and that is because the split will matter for that. But my setup is actually going to be pretty trolly. I think that it's a really fun build to play. Remember, you're going to want to use the top tree if you're going to play PvP with this class. Let me quickly switch this up real fast, and I will show you what I like to use. So I just have to switch my boots up. And there you go. Okay, so the split overall for this is 2 mobility, 4 resilience, and 8 recovery. Like I already said, mobility isn't so useful just because of the fact that it's your walking speed and your jump height, but that will boil down to your strafe speed. So I do think that mobility has potential, especially if you're very aggressive and you're going to try to outstrafe people in PvP. You always want about 4 resilience because with 4 resilience, you could survive 1 extra Mida multi-tool shot, and the Mida right now is the meta, so you're going to see a lot of Midas. And recovery, I think, is the best stat. You want to go for as much recovery as you can get for pretty much all classes. It doesn't matter if you're a Hunter, Warlock, or Titan. I think recovery is by far the best thing to go for. Now, for the helmet here, I go for grenades will recharge faster. The arms These arms are so trolly. I never thought I would like these. I thought they were stupid. But what they do is that they will increase your melee lunge range. You will demon lunge towards people in PvP. It's pretty much the same as the Stormcaller melee, where you have crazy range for your melee. You will also do more damage if you're surrounded. So, if there's like 2 or 3 guys, when you punch the first guy, you're going to take a lot of shield and health off with that first punch. And it's really fun. But for these arms, I would recommend using Void Melee will recharge faster. For the chest piece, I go for class ability will recharge faster. This is always really nice in PvP because you want to put up your towering barricade to save you or help your teammates or capture an objective, whatever it might be. And for the boots as well, go for Void Melee will recharge faster. And the bond is the same, which is armor resilience. Now, the reason why this is so good is because of the Sentinel's top tree. First of all, you have defensive strike. This is going to give you an overshield when you kill someone. Also, you can restore your health with your melee. So, like I said, it's really trolly because you have this crazy demon lunge melee, and you will just fly towards people, and that will freak them out. And then, when you kill them with the melee, you're going to get an overshield. So if there's 2 guys, the second guy is going to have to deal with your overshield now. And if you could kill that person, you're going to get your health back. It's a really trolly and fun build. So if you want to mix it up and have some fun in PvP, I definitely recommend trying this out. You will have a blast, especially if you do like punching people. And it actually makes melees really good on the Titan, so that's really cool. But that's pretty much what I would recommend for the Sentinel class. Now we're going to talk about the Striker class. So I'm going to quickly swap all my gear and I'm going to cut this video ahead, but I'll tell you exactly what you want to use in PvE and in PvP. Alrighty guys, so this is going to be my Striker Titan PvE build, and this build is just so overpowered. I already made a video about it, but I had to talk about it here again just because it is so freaking good. Now I will show some gameplay of this build and the Hammer of Soul build in PvE. Because I'm trying to keep this video short, I'm not going to show any Sentinel gameplay because it's not anything special. But this build definitely is really overpowered for PvE. In fact, I want to say that this is probably the most overpowered PvE build in the entire game. So this thing is just so much fun to play, and you will just absolutely destroy PvE with this build. Now, before I actually talk about it, let me quickly talk about what tree you want. I would 100% say for PvE and for PvP, use the top tree. The bottom tree is not bad, but the top tree is just so much better, primarily because you get 2 grenades. This will also increase the duration of the grenade's effect, and that's really good because the pulse nade right now is just so overpowered for both PvE and for PvP. So this grenade will just shred everything. It's so good. Now in PvP, I don't really recommend using the shoulder charge all that much. If somebody is weak, they will die from the shoulder charge. But you don't want to just blindly go in trying to shoulder charge people. A lot of times you're going to get shot and killed or team shotted. So it is not something I recommend. But in PvE, the shoulder charge is amazing. Now they did change the name of it, but I will always call it shoulder charge because of Destiny 1, and that is what it is. But one of the things they changed is that now, when you use shoulder charge, you will cause an arc explosion, which will add AoE to it, and that will damage every enemy that is around. The main key to this build is knowing which enemies will die from the shoulder charge and which enemies will not die. So once you learn that and you know which ones to target, you will always have your shoulder charge, and that will make this build incredible. Now the second perk here is really good because of that AoE effect. When you damage an enemy with the shoulder charge, it's going to restore some of your grenade. So if you go into a large group of enemies and you shoulder charge them in PvE, you're going to get both of your grenades back super quick. And this is absolutely amazing because you could just throw your pulse nades at mobs of enemies, at big enemies, and then you shoulder charge enemies and you get your grenades back. So you pretty much have unlimited melee and unlimited grenade with this build. Now the final perk is also really good, but I'm not going to talk about it. It's really just for the Fist of Havoc, but it is a really nice perk. The main key to this build is the exotic helmet, which is the Skull Fort. What this does is that when you kill an enemy with an arc melee ability, you'll get health regeneration, and that's really good. It will keep you alive. But the main thing that it's going to do is that when you kill them with the shoulder charge, you're going to get your shoulder charge back. So you will have an unlimited amount of shoulder charge. As long as you know which enemies to target and they die, well, you're never going to waste your shoulder charge, and that is going to constantly restore your grenade energy, and you will have unlimited grenades and unlimited melee. This helmet is amazing for PvE, and this build is definitely the most overpowered PvE build in the entire game. Once you learn how to play it and you play it right, it is so much fun. Now, the mod I have on this helmet is increased armor resilience, but I actually have two of these helmets because sometimes you might actually waste your shoulder charge. And when that happens, I will equip this because I will get my melee back faster. I always want to get my melee back faster if I use it up and I don't have it. But most of the time, I will never waste my melee. I'm really good with this build now to the point where I know exactly which enemies are going to die every single time. Even if I'm doing something that is higher light, like a nightfall, I always know which enemies are going to die, and if there is no enemies that will die from one shoulder charge, I'll just shoot them a little bit, weaken them, and then shoulder charge them. So that is the key. Now the arms, this is more for PvP, but I have class abilities will recharge faster with an arc subclass, but I also have another pair of arms which will give me arc melee regeneration, because once again, if I do waste my arc melee, I want to get it back as soon as I can. The chest piece, I have grenades will recharge faster, and the boots, I have increased armor recovery. Now, you could put grenade recharge on the boots as well, but I don't do that, and that is because of the shoulder charge. You really don't need grenade recharge rate in PvE because you're constantly shoulder charging, you're constantly getting your grenades back, so it's kind of a waste. I think that it is good for PvP, but in PvE, you don't need grenade recharge at all. You just don't. And for the Titan Mark, once again, this is more for PvP, but I have class abilities will recharge faster. So now let me go ahead and show you my PvP setup for the Striker, because I primarily do play the Striker in PvP. I do think it is the best PvP subclass for the Titan for sure. The main thing I will do is switch out the helmet, and it's pretty much the same thing. I have increased armor resilience for this. I keep the arms because I want to have that class ability recharge rate, and I have two options for PvP. I use the Axiom War Rig if I'm using auto rifles. This is an amazing chest piece if you are using auto rifles, and the Uriel's Gift is super good. The origin story is super good right now, so I love this chest piece. This is also really good for PvE, so this is another build that you can do for PvE if you like. So this is an amazing chest piece, but the main chest piece I use is the Crest of Alpalupi. This is so good for a lot of reasons. First of all, you will generate more orbs of light, but that's really not the main perk. The main perk is that you get a little bit of your health back when you use your barricade. Now, it doesn't seem like it's worth it, but in PvP, this will save your butt a lot. It saves me all the time. And because I have the double mods for class ability, I always get my barricade back really fast. So I'm always able to throw it up for heavy ammo or for an objective or if I'm about to die. I love it, and I really do like getting that little bit of health back because it will put me back in the fight a lot. A lot of times I might be getting shot, I'll throw up the barricade, I'll have all my health, I'm able to challenge the person, and it's really, really good. So I definitely do recommend the Crest of Alpalupi for PvP. I think that it is an amazing chest piece. Now for both of these chest pieces, I use grenades will recharge faster with an arc subclass. The boots are the same, the Titan Mark is the same as well. If you actually take a look at my split, I have 2 mobility, 4 resilience, and 9 recovery. Having 9 recovery is amazing for PvP. It gives me a huge advantage. A lot of times if I'm in a one-on-one gun battle, let's say the guy will take cover and I'll take cover. By the time that we both poke back out and we start fighting each other again, I'll have my health back, my shields back, and the guy will just have his health back and no shields. And that is just epic because I'm able to win that gun battle almost every single time. So in PvP, you definitely want to have as much recovery as possible, and having 9 is definitely really, really good. You can't get 10 on a Titan. Only a Warlock can get 10, but 9 is definitely amazing. Alrighty guys, that's going to pretty much do it for the Striker Titan. Now I'm going to quickly swap all my gear and cut the video ahead, and I'll tell you exactly what you want to use for the Hammer of Soul subclass. Alrighty guys, so this is going to be my Hammer of Soul setup, and this is definitely a really great setup for PvE for sure. This does work in PvP though. If you do hold on to your super, you will have a crazy amount of grenade recharge rate, and that will give you a big advantage in PvP. But you have to wait till you get your super, which takes a while in PvP, and normally you might only get 1 super per game. You can get 2, but it is really hard to do in PvP. But if you just want to wait to pop your hammers until the very end of the game, this setup definitely does work in PvP as well as in PvE. But I personally think it works a lot better in PvE just because it's really easy to get your super, and once you have it, you can pretty much just go to town with your grenades, because the grenade for this class is really good, and that's going to be the thermite grenade. I definitely recommend this in PvE, and I would say that in PvP, it's also really good. It can really mess people up a lot. So this grenade is great. Now, the bottom tree is going to be the tree that I highly recommend for PvE. Now, it's up to you which one you want to play for PvP. I also really do like the top tree too. The top tree is great, especially for the final perk, because it makes the hammers just do crazy damage, and it's really, really fun. But the bottom tree is really nice for a couple reasons. The first thing is you're going to start to create sunspots. And every time you kill an enemy with a solar ability, you're going to restore your health, and that's really nice. Now, this perk right here, Sun Warrior, is pretty much the main perk, because while you stand in a sunspot, it's going to reduce the recharge rate of all of your solar abilities, and also it will make your super last longer. And that is also the same when you take into account the final perk, because when you pop your hammers, you actually will automatically create a sunspot. So a lot of people might not know that. The second you pop your hammers, you make a sunspot. And anything you kill will also make sunspots. So this is definitely really cool. And you can throw your hammers faster. So you can normally throw like, I think 9 hammers with this. And that's really, really good. Now the main thing that you need for this setup is going to be the chest piece, which is the Hollow Fire Heart. If you create a sunspot and you stand in it, and you have this perk going, because what this perk does is that it greatly increases your recharge rate while you have your super for all of your solar abilities. If you stand in that sunspot though and you get that Sun Warrior effect, your grenade will come back in 12 seconds. That is really ridiculous, especially for this game, because I believe it takes about 1:30 for your grenade to just come back normally. But with this setup, it's only 12 seconds. So that is absolutely great. And this chest piece is 100% amazing. So let me go ahead and talk about all my mods for this setup. For the helmet, definitely would recommend solar grenade recharge rate. For the arms, you could put anything you want on here. I have reduced recoil for energy weapon. For the chest piece, you can also put whatever you want on this, but I have solar melee abilities will recharge faster. And for the boots, I would definitely say you want to go for grenades will recharge faster while using a solar subclass. And the Titan mark I have on increased armor resilience, just because. My split for this is 3 mobility, 4 resilience, and 7 recovery. That's definitely a really nice split for both PvE and for PvP. Now, if you don't want to go ahead and hold on to your super in PvP and you want a different setup that you can use with the fire subclass, this is what I would recommend, because this is what I do sometimes, because I do like popping my hammers a lot. I just changed the chest piece and I changed the boots. So let me do that real quick. And this is my setup. And my split for this is 1 mobility, 6 resilience, and 8 recovery. I'm one of these people that pretty much will say that mobility is kind of useless. It does increase your strafe speed, so that is something. But with my playstyle, I don't really try to outstrafe people all that much in PvP. So I don't see the point. I'm all about recovery. And a lot of people also say resilience is pretty useless as well. But I don't know. I mean, I think that you should at least have 4. But anything after that, you really don't need. But I think that this split is fine, and the helmet is the same, the arms are the same, the chest piece is the same thing. I have solar melee will recharge faster, but on the boots I have increased armor recovery, which you could go ahead and throw on increased recharge speed for solar grenade if you want to do that. And the Titan mark is also the same. Alrighty guys, so that's going to pretty much do it for all of my Titan builds. Now I'm going to show some gameplay, primarily my Striker Titan build, just because it is by far the most overpowered PvE build in this entire game. I'll also show a little bit of the Hammer of Soul class, really just to show on how fast you can get your grenade back, because that's what it's really all about. Getting that grenade to come back in 12 seconds is absolutely ridiculous. Remember, I'm not going to show any Sentinel just because I don't really see the point of showing that. And also, I'm trying to keep this video somewhat short. I don't want it to be really, really long, because if it is really long, then it's just kind of annoying to a lot of people. I know how it is. I tend to over-explain things and talk a lot, so I apologize for that. But let's go ahead and get into the gameplay, and I'll show you exactly on how overpowered some of this stuff can be. Alrighty guys, well this is going to be the gameplay, and we're going to start with the Striker Titan. and I'm going to really demonstrate on how overpowered this build is. You don't even need to shoot. It's really ridiculous. You could pretty much just throw your grenades at mobs of enemies or into large enemies and just shoulder charge everything else. Now, sometimes when you're doing a highlight activity like a Prestige Nightfall, there might not be that many enemies that can be one-shotted from the shoulder charge. But if that is the case, you can always just shoot them a little bit, weaken them, and then shoulder charge them. And if they're in a mob and you hit with the AoE all the other enemies, then a second shoulder charge should pretty much kill them all. So this build pretty much works on every activity. It doesn't matter what you're doing, it will always work. And it's a lot of fun to play. You will absolutely just dominate PvE with this build. Now right here, I really wanted to show on how fast the Thermite Grenade can come back using the Sun Warrior perk and also this chest piece. And it's really fast. When I actually timed this, it was 12 seconds. That is ridiculous. Now right here, this is going to be from the raid. This is not the hard mode raid, this is the normal raid. But this does also work on the hard mode raid. I have tested it and I have beaten the raid. So I can tell you 100% this build is great for the hard mode raid. But there are a lot of really strong enemies. So generally you might have to weaken a couple before you shoulder charge. But all the scions and all the dogs will be one-shotted from the shoulder charge just like they are on the normal raid. But on the normal raid, this build absolutely dominates the throne room. I can pretty much solo the outside by myself because when the big guys come out, I just throw my pulse nades at them to take them out. And everything else, I can pretty much just use my shoulder charge on. The Legionnaires will not die from the shoulder charge though, so that is something to keep in mind, but I normally just shoot them. But there always are a lot of scions and dogs out here, so I can pretty much just constantly shoulder charge into them, and I get my health back too, which is really nice to be able to stay alive for the throne room. And one thing about this helmet as well that I never talk about, when you're using your super, if you do the little knee attack, you will also get your health back. It is counted as an arc melee, that little knee attack that you can do. Now right here, this is really funny. I almost die, but I do actually survive. But what's really funny is this last little scion, when he ran past me, he actually dies from the pulse nade. And yeah, when the dogs come out at the very end, right before you do damage, you can pretty much take out every single dog by yourself. Just shoulder charge into all of them and they'll all die. And that is really cool because you can get all your teammates some ammo and stuff. Now right here, this is going to be the final little clip. I just wanted to show this because I thought this is really funny with the Hammer Soul class. Once you start creating a bunch of sunspots, the sunspots will actually damage the enemies. So what you can literally do is just stand in the sunspot and just dance, and the enemies will try to come and kill you, and they'll be pretty much killed from the sunspots. And the entire time you just constantly get your grenade back really quick, and you could just keep throwing that grenade at the enemies. Alrighty guys, so that's going to pretty much do it for the video. I really hope that it has helped. If it has, will you please like the video for me? Be sure to subscribe for future videos, and I really do hope that everyone has a very nice day, and peace out.